The Yamim Noraim, the days of judgment and rapprochement, are ke'en Gesher, something like a bridge. On these days, we, each of us as individuals and all of us together, stand at the edge of two rivers, on the banks of the Yabok and on Har HaAvarim, the hilly region of change, on the edge of the Jordan. We come to the Yabok to wrestle with ourselves and the other and God, to claim our status as Yisrael and as Ivrim, struggling until we're able to wrest blessing from whatever it is that keeps us stuck. And we stand on Har HaAvarim and get a view from the bridge. From here, we can gaze into the promised land, taking courage and hope to forge a new identity, a new society, a new future. That's where we began last Friday night on Rosh Hashanah. And now we've come full circle. In a way, we haven't moved. We're still here, exactly where we were, standing on the banks of two rivers, crossing the very, very narrow bridge. The high holidays are ke'en Gesher, like a bridge, but partly in the way that a musical bridge works. They take us on a journey through new motifs, maybe a different key, a cadenza, or an improv. But their purpose and goal is to take us back to part A, the same melody we started with, but now maybe with a richer orchestration, more complex harmonies, or maybe we just listen and hear it differently. Like the bridge in Prague that Reb Isaac traveled to find a treasure. Remember him? He followed his dream to a bridge. It wasn't actually a bridge to a new place. We don't know if he ever even actually crossed it, though he hung around it a lot. And the bridge sent him back home. Its purpose was to enable him to live more deeply and fully right where he was. And the dream was right. It was the bridge to the king's palace. I don't know if you remember that detail. The bridge was identified as the bridge to the king's palace. And whether he crossed that bridge or not, that was true. Because the king's palace, of course, is within. You may remember that the story told us that Rabbi Isaac had that dream. It came to him 3 times after years of poverty without losing faith. He had a demonstrated record of patience, a willingness to risk the embarrassment and disappointment that is attendant upon hope. Not everyone is willing to risk that. The guard says, dreams are stupid and meaningless. And Rabbi Isaac is a fool for taking them seriously. Imagine, he says, if I paid attention to my dreams. Imagine indeed. At moments of transition, difficult times, when the world is changing and we're changing, there are always voices like that. Sometimes they're our own, cynically deriding our faith and dreams, telling us we're foolish to hope. That's the voice of fear. V'haklal v'ha'ikar lo lehisfached klal. And the key thing is, don't give in to that fear. I promised on Rosh Hashanah Eve that by tonight I would tell you about the paper bridge. There's actually not that much to tell. It's a Jewish legend. I'm unable to find its origins. It's preserved mostly in Yiddish poetry emerging from the Holocaust. And it says that at the time of the Messiah, either Israel or some say all the righteous will cross the ocean into the land on a bridge made of paper. The wicked will try to cross on a bridge made of iron, and they will be thrown into the sea. We can bracket the we-them dichotomy. I'm not such a fan of that. And whatever the specifics of our belief in Messiah, which you may or may not hold. What the legend is really grappling with is, how do we get from here to there? How do we transition to an imagined future where evil will be vanquished and love and kindness and justice will prevail? Looking at the mess the world is in now, how do we move forward to a better future? You can see why the legend would have been appealing to the poets of Europe during and after the Shoah. And the answer is, on a bridge of paper. What's with a paper bridge? Paper dissolves in water. But I think it's really about the specific contrast to iron that is so telling. A bridge of iron sounds reliable and solid, lasting and stable. Paper is a total contrast. It's fragile, it's temporary, it's flexible, it's seemingly weak. But as we know from the many, many transitions we've been through in our own lives, from witnessing changes in our world or our families or ourselves, what seems to be reliable and solid rarely is. I was thinking as I was putting this together about a story that my teacher, Ed Feld, Rabbi Ed Feld, I think he told it when he was here, about being in elementary school and learning about like stuff that was being dumped into the ocean, being worried about it as a little kid. And his teacher laughed at him and said, the ocean is enormous. Human beings can't have any impact on anything as big as the ocean, right? Things that seem reliable and stable rarely are. Iron represents that false sense of stability and eternality. And our attempt to protect ourselves from the dangers and losses of change by building bridges of iron is understandable. Sometimes it's what we need to get through the day. But ultimately, they don't serve us very well. I think aging is a great example of this, if we're lucky enough to age. It's a continual confrontation with the loss of the iron bridges in our lives, all the things that gave us solid footing, that maybe, if we were blessed, we once thought would hold us forever, our bodies, our loved ones, our ability to recall names and even words, the culture we grew up with, the way language is used, the technology we know and learned, the geopolitical landscape, all of it changes. Some of us, of course, never had the luxury of relying on much of any of it from the start. What is enduring is our ability to be flexible, live, responsive. Paper, yes, it's flimsy, it's destructible, scary. It also requires real art to make a paper bridge that will stand. But also paper comes from and goes back to the earth. It itself is part of a cycle of life. It gives what it can for a time. Then ideally it returns to nourish new growth, just like us. Iron is used to demonstrate and wield power. It makes weapons, manacles. Iron enforces its will. It bends others to submission. Paper invites dialogue, apology, forgiveness, compromise. It understands that power is not a zero sum to be hoarded, but something to be shared. And that's because, and I think this is the most important part of the image, paper is used to share words. And words are the best medium we have to build bridges. Used properly, words become Lashon HaKodesh. They connect us, they transport us, they carry us forward, they support us through turbulent times. It's probably one of the reasons why the vast majority of the Al-Chetz in our Machzor relate to words. Because when we get it wrong, it's so damaging. And when we get it right, it's so powerful. Paper holds the words of our prayers, our confessions, our consolations and comfort, our yearnings and hopes and dreams. Paper holds the stories of our people, our joys and our disappointments, our pains and our resilience, and our mistakes and our growth and our wisdom, because paper holds Torah. We Jews write and read and study and talk our way forward. What we cannot yet feel, we can nevertheless pray. What we cannot yet live, we can nevertheless write, describe, articulate. We write and read and study and talk our way toward a better future through the power of poetry and teaching and prayer and Torah and stories. Everybody's stories, our stories. That's the paper bridge.